The origin of Rageblade Nidalee dates all the way back to Season 1. A lot was different back then. There were less items to choose from, and Nidalee's scalings were far different from what they are now. One change that sparked the catalyst for the evolution in Nidalee's build path was the removal of Nidalee's insane 125% AP scaling ratio on her heal. This is around the time that people stopped using Rageblade Nidalee as their go-to build. After this, people tried a lot of things, including full tank Nidalee, AD Nidalee, and AP Nidalee. Though Rageblade wasn't bad, it wasn't the most optimal build from that point on, and it still remains that way today. Though the new Rageblade isn't as good for Nidalee as the old one, due to the fact that your insane number of spellcasts can't keep the stacks going, Rageblade is still a fun and powerful item to build on Nidalee as long as you know how to use it. The old hybrid Nidalee's core build was Rageblade, Sheen, and Merc Treads into Deathcap. Eventually you would build the Sheen into a Lichbane, but with this build back then and the old Sheen, you would wait to upgrade it until after you got a Deathcap. Like I said earlier, a lot has changed since these days, and there are a lot more options for this build, especially the addition of new Sheen items. The new build is relatively the same, but with minor differences. Rageblade remains the core item in the build, and you want to get it as soon as possible, and start snowballing. The earlier you get it, the better, as it gives you all the stats that you need to dominate a lane. AD for ranged harass and scaling on your takedown, along with AP to help your heal and spear, along with the rest of your abilities. It will also grant you attack speed, scaling with your own Primal Surge's attack speed boost for a lot of ranged harass and kiting potential. This build has very high focus on kiting, in large part due to our next item, Iceborne Gauntlet. Iceborne is the big variance that we have in the build versus the old days of Rageblade Nidalee. It grants us a lot of mana to help with poke and keeping healthy, along with some defensive stats to make jumping in and abusing AD scalings and Sheen procs for their takedown. The biggest thing is the slow and its synergy with Rageblade, and our next item. Blade of the Ruined King is a really fun item with this build. Although it's not as good as it used to be, it still has its merits, especially in the current meta of bruisers and tanks. It gives us a lot more survivability in teamfights with the lifesteal it grants, and the slow to assist in kiting. In combination with the Iceborne slow every 2 seconds, we're going to be getting off a lot more auto attacks, which means more shredding of the enemy team with Bork's passive. At this point you'll be doing a lot of hybrid damage, and it's very hard to build against. An alternative to Blade of the Ruined King is a Wit's End. Not many people make use of this item, but it's very good. If you need some extra MR or the enemy team is building more armor than MR, Wit's End will help you do next to true damage to squishies. The shred from Wit's End is insane, and if you can get it early enough, your damage will spike exponentially. After Wit's End or Bork, we go for another AP item. You have a few choices at this point. Either opt for an Abyssal if you need more shred and MR, because remember we have Wit's End, we're going for magic damage shred, not magic pen. With Wit's End and Abyssal we'll be reducing a flat 45 magic resist. The alternative to this is a Zhonya's if instead of MR you need armor or survivability against high burst combos. Finally, we can opt for a Deathcap to round out our build in terms of damage, or a Guardian Angel if you want to preserve your pristine 30-0-30 KDA. As for boots, it's largely situational. You can always opt for Merc Treads for nostalgia's sake or if you need the CC reduction, but we already have a lot of MR options in our build, so I usually go for Sork boots. You don't need CDR boots as you'll be hitting 40% CDR through build and setup already, and 45% when we steal every blue buff. For runes and masteries, run a standard 12-18-0 setup with buff duration over biscuits because I'm a dirty blue buff addict. For runes, I run the same setup as normal mid Nidalee. Hybrid penetration marks are important for the build for obvious reasons, and they outscale magic pen very quickly into the laning phase. During the game, you want to maintain a good leash radius on your opponents. Try to stay at your max auto range and get your auto attacks off. Do the best you can to shred your opponents from range before jumping in. This Nidalee build excels in chaotic fights. Use the beginning of a fight to stack your Rageblade, and then when people begin to split off, start chucking spears and diving on more important targets. You're deceptively tanky with this build, but don't overcommit, as you can't take the focus from an entire team. Your job as Nidalee is to be aware of the entire fight at once. You need to be alert and ready for your opponents to split off from their front line so you can jump on them. Even if there's a tank right in your face, you always need to be looking over their shoulder for a squishy to jump on. Your Hunted Pounce works in such a way that if you land a spear past a tank, you can easily disengage from them and get onto a squishy. Fights in the jungle during mid-game work especially well for this kind of playstyle, and it's where you'll really excel the most. Your spears don't do as much damage as normal, so be careful not to run out of mana while poking. Use your spears mainly as a way to engage and stick on your targets. Since you aren't focused on a fully AP build, your poke won't be as substantial as normal. Your win condition changes from poking in teamfights and sieging towers to forcing and creating messy and lopsided fights. You do well at picking off split pushing targets. Try to do this to create 4v5 fights and give your team an advantage. Focus on creating chaos and chaotic teamfights, win enough small skirmishes and you'll win the game easily. Thank you everyone for watching, and let me know how you do with the build.